Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making French bread pizza. So you're going to want to start by preheating your oven to 425 degrees so when we're ready with the pizza it is ready to go in. So we're going to start with a loaf of French bread, which we are going to cut completely in half down the center. Make sure that you cut it all the way through, and then once it's cut and you have it side by side, you're going to cut directly through the center of this again, so that way you end up with 4 pieces of French bread pizza. Now sometimes when you get these loaves, they're a little fluffy, a little too loose for making a French bread pizza. So what we're going to do is place them on the pan that we're going to be cooking them on. And once they're on top of that, we're going to take another pan, lay on top of it, and press down to press it a little bit more solid to make sure that it's not as loose a piece of bread. We just want to flatten it a bit. So put your pan on top, press down. You might want to do this several times. It does press it down a bit. It's not going to take it flat. We don't want that anyway. But just press until you feel that you pushed it down a bit, so that way at least we've gotten it to a point where it's not going to be all loose and absorb any moisture and get soggy. So in a pan, we're going to put it up to medium-high heat and add at least a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. And then to this we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to melt the butter and warm up the olive oil, and then later we're going to add seasonings to this, so that way it's going to get a flavor going before we even get to the bread. So the whole idea of this is when we actually melt this together and add the seasoning, we're going to actually put some of this over the bread to start with to give it a flavor. It's like we're basically going to infuse it with a little bit of Italian seasoning. So now we are going to add at least a piece of garlic that's been minced. I think 1 clove would do. Chop it up, put it in there, and again mix it through with the butter and olive oil, because this is going to give you some flavoring. We're not trying to overpower it with garlic, we just want enough to give it a hint of garlic. And then to this we're going to use about a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, which this is going to take care of all your other flavor that you want to add to this olive oil butter mixture. So go ahead and mix it all the way through, because we're going to use about half of this on the bread in just a minute, and then we're going to save the other half because we're going to mix it with the sauce that we're going to use. So make sure everything is completely stirred up and ready to go. And then you're just going to take a spoon and spoon a line of this over your bread, and then just rub it back and forth, because you're taking the flavor all over your bread as you're doing this. So like I said, only use half of it. You're still going to reserve some of this for the actual pizza sauce. And just like I said, rub it back and forth. See if you can spread some of the seasoning back and forth. It doesn't have to coat the whole thing, because as you're eating this, you're going to notice it's going to cook through anyway. So reminding you that your oven should be at 425 heating up, because we're going to go in there in just a second. So what we're going to do now is take some Parmesan cheese and we're going to sprinkle it over top the bread until we get a good coating. So depending on how much bread you have, it's going to be a different amount. So just sprinkle it on until you have a good layer of it across your bread. There's no set amount on this. If you actually like Parmesan cheese, you can actually add more than what I'm putting on mine. I just want to give it a good coating. And then after that, you're going to want to actually take some mozzarella, and we're going to do, again, a coating over top the bread. This is going to actually help your bread when it bakes, because it's going to make the top a little bit more solid and less likely for your sauce to sink into your bread and make it soggy. Because, you know, I've had French bread pizzas before where the bottom of the bread is soggy because the sauce went straight through, and it's not pleasant. So with this way of doing it, you're kind of giving it a little bit of a barrier to help keep your sauce where it's supposed to be. So as I said, make sure you get a good coating of this across these. You're just basically wanting to make sure there's cheese from side to side, because as soon as we get this all together, we're going to put this into the oven for at least 5 minutes. So that way it can actually cook through, melt the cheese and do that. And then back to our pan that we had the seasoning in, we are going to add at least, I'd say, half a cup or maybe a little bit more of pizza sauce. And this is kind you can buy from the store anywhere, it doesn't really matter, but our seasoning is going to work its way into this to give it a much better flavor than it started out with, because you're going to have that garlic and Italian seasoning and everything mixed in with the sauce. So like I said, depending on how big your bread is, you could use anywhere, when you put the pizza sauce in, from a half a cup to 3/4. Once you get it mixed through and you brought your bread back from the oven, then you're going to actually put a layer of sauce on top of the cheese. And we just want to make sure that you have a smooth coating of this. We're not trying to overload it with the sauce. We just want to put enough on there that where there is the flavoring of the sauce. And you should have enough to actually do all 4 pieces. So once you get it on top there, smooth it around, kind of make it even, and use as much of your sauce as you want to. If you are big on sauce, add more. If you're not, you don't really have to use a lot to get the flavor out of it. You just basically want a coating across the top. Now, when you get all the sauce on, we're going to come back with mozzarella cheese again. Now, with mine, when I put it on top here, I used about a cup and a half of cheese to do all 4 of these. Now, if you're a cheese lover and you want a whole lot more than that, you can put it on. It's based on your taste, how much you want, how much you think should be on there. And then after you get the cheese on top of it, we will be putting toppings on top of this as well. So again, this is something where you can personalize this however you want it to be. You know, you can use anything to make this, like pepperoni or black olive or any kind of peppers or anything you want to put on top. It's up to you to actually pick what you want. And if you have a special thing that you like putting on your pizza that's unusual, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you put on top of yours. I am one of those people that loves black olives, so I always put them on my part for, you know, just the fact that I love the taste of what they are. And I usually do that with pepperoni, and sometimes I'll put peppers on it, it depends, and sometimes onion, because I like onion. Every now and then I will do mushroom, so it's just a mix of however you want to do it. So make sure your cheese is completely across the top of these, and then as you can see, I'm putting pepperoni on mine, and I suggest probably when you're trying to pile this up with these things, put the pepperoni on first, because other things you put on top of it, if they're bulky, would make pepperoni fall off. So usually it's better to put the pepperoni on first. And just do an even coating of it across the top of it. Now, one thing I have learned about making French bread pizzas is, as you are baking, sometimes the cheese melts and things slide a little bit, so you may have to like push them back in place a little bit, something like that. One good thing about this, if you push the actual pieces of French bread close together, they're not going to slide off or go down into your pan while you're baking. So as you can see, I'm putting my black olives on right now, which is something I don't know, I enjoy it. Some people don't, but it's a thing that I do. And just distribute them as evenly as you can on your toppings, because it's one of those things where the more you distribute it, the better, because when it cooks into the cheese, it's just going to basically flatten out to where everything is across the whole top and you don't have one thing in one place. And this is what it looks like when it's done, when it comes back out of the oven, because once you bake this for another 10 minutes, you are done with it, and it's an amazing French bread pizza. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance and would like to, please check out my cookbook, which is available on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide. Have a great day.